Basically because, well, yeah, Space Empires 5 has the habit of making the music very, very loud the first time you log into it. And so it was unusable audio, just completely unusable. So this is video 0. It's going to be a preview, prequel. This is for Space Empires 5, Let's Play that I'll be running through. Created by Malfador Machinations and Strategy First. It's a little bit older, of a 4X space exploration game, but a very fun one. So, basically I'm narrating what's going on here. So we've got the new game options there that are coming up, and that'll allow us to do a bunch of different things, but I know I pointed out a couple other things here. So we have initially two different mods. There's the standard SE5, and then there's Dev Null mod and a version number. We will be using Dev Null mod for this particular one. The Space Empires 5 base mod, or base form, is actually really fun, but Dev Null mod has balancing things and things like that that'll help out, makes things a little bit faster. All the other options that are down there are actually pretty straightforward. Scenarios and such you kind of have to download, but yeah, it's actually really useful and kind of fun to go through. So right now it's just loading up and getting ready for the next section. I can't even remember what I was talking about, and I can't hear myself on the audio either, which is why I'm doing this re-record. So what we have here is the game setup, the initial game setup, and you can go through and look at all the different settings. The various star systems are actually procedurally generated, and there are quite a few of them, and each one has a different sort of look to it. Now you can go through and actually generate the map, and I believe I do generate a map in here to show people, but the options that it's looking at right now, all warp points are connected. Definitely want to leave that on if this is your first couple of times playing through. Otherwise, there's a chance that you'll get started in a system that does not actually have warp points. The next option down, no warp points. I recommend leaving off at all times. You will be stuck with just one star, and it's, while there is a technology that allows you to get out to the stars, it's annoying. Warp points in random locations, fun little thing. Otherwise, it just makes them on the edge of the individual star systems. Fun either way. I typically put it so that the warp points are in a random location in the star system. The next option down is finite resources. It's more of an advanced option. Basically, instead of a percentage of production, your planet has a finite resource. Alright, now we're on the Empires page. A bunch of different settings here. We are going to set things so that we can see everybody's scores. I usually either leave it so that it's only allies or just nobody. We're going to go through and change the number of racial points for all players. This will actually affect computer players as well as human players. Make the computers a little bit more, the number of computers a little bit more, the number of computers, AI units there, and increase their difficulty a little bit. I find that on low, it tends to be a bit of a cakewalk, and on high is pretty fun. Okay, just randomly selecting various settings for our empire. These settings are basically just straight up nothing but cosmetic. They have no mechanical effect. The only one that really does is the minister, if you choose to activate minister settings, which I don't typically do. Now you can go through and set things manually. For instance, here the ship type, that actually does have a minor effect. It affects where internal, outer, and armor spots are on every ship class. So we're just going to go with something there. And then kind of just randomly generate these. And you can randomly generate it, or you can type it in, or you can actually go through and choose from a drop-down menu. Eventually, I think we just ended up just choosing a random. Yep. Big. And then there's your race's picture. So we also can choose the race's atmospheric starting type. We end up with methane, and the planetary we end up with rock. I think we actually chose that. Yep. So the next thing we go to is choosing the government, I want to say. And my recording software is being a little bit diffy. There we go. So for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. You go through, you select the planet that you like. It doesn't actually have any mechanical effect beyond the fact that if you are on a non-native planet, you either need a different race that breathes that atmosphere, or you'll have what's called a domed planet. It uses 1/5 of the has available 1/5 of the space for storage of facilities and cargo, which can be a little bit of a limiting thing. Alright, and there we go, choosing the governments. Now, each of the governments have different bonuses and different penalties based upon various aspects of what the government sort of looks like. The only government that does not is the oligarchy, and it is considered a neutral government. No real benefits, no real penalties. Now, one thing that I sometimes like to do for a role-playing aspect is I like to look at what my randomly generated governmental type is, and I try to find something that's similar, but not exactly the same. So we ended up going with the, I believe, corporate in this case. Can't really read it because my playback is a little bit weird. And then we go straight into society. Now, both government and society have bonuses and penalties, and they will actually stack with each other quite a bit, in fact. And it is possible to create a civilization that is effectively unplayable. If your population has too many happiness hits, they'll become riotous within turns. It's actually bad enough that the developer of the mod has has altered the mod a little bit so it doesn't happen as fast. Other ones have so many penalties on, say, research or construction that you have to build 3 times as many facilities or get higher technology levels just to be able to keep up. It can make things interesting, but find a societal type that you think that you would be able to play and have fun with it. Basically, it's just choose one that you like. I believe we ended up with trading here. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yep. And that's the various different bonuses and penalties that come with being a trader. Now we go on to racial traits. This is where I actually have the most fun. Racial traits cover a lot of ground, both as positives and negatives, and allow you to customize things a little bit more. The advice, always free. You don't actually have to put a click in it. It's just there so that the mod devs can actually show this to you all the time. It's something they can put in. So you have mining, positive and negative. organic, positive, and negative, and other positives and negatives all through. Then you get down to the bottom, and you get the racial stuff that is racial technologies. These are typically a lot more expensive and a lot more fun. They're actually very interesting things to have. One thing to avoid: don't mix crystallurgy and organics. They are basically mutually exclusive. Crystallurgy uses armor and crystal in ships to improve shields. Organic uses armor as a regenerative, and they have organic ships. So they are relatively mutually exclusive. Some of their technologies work together, most of them, especially when it comes to their ships, just do not. Plus, they're both really, really expensive anyways. I typically pick up a couple of small negatives to allow me to buy some more of the really cool stuff that's down below. And in this case, I believe I get, environmental weakness. I know I get low reproduction, which is slightly bugged, unfortunately. Low reproduction. Well, if you get to video 8, you'll see what's going on there. I actually have to make a modification to the mod file in order to be able to have them be able to breed properly. So here I'm looking over the various different options. I know I end up with a temporal, and I can't remember what other abilities I got. I think I picked up. I quite often will pick up organic because organic's just fun. I have shield regenerators through technology, and then I have armor regeneration through a different technology tree, and it's basically a form of power gaming, I guess. Makes you very powerful and very difficult to have your ships be destroyed very early on. But I specifically chose not to do organic on this one, even though it's so much fun. I do have another game that I'm running where I am playing a crystallurgic race, and it's kind of fun. It has its perks. Psychic, you get some interesting technologies, especially for sensors and weapon technologies. It'll allow you to basically knock out your enemy's ships or bypass certain things. Deeply Religious gets a series of buildings and ship technologies that are really useful. And Temporal will have some really interesting stuff, as you'll see eventually. Alright, so what did I choose? I think that's natural space stations. Now, I'll show you the technology page here. Honestly, we don't do anything with it, or with history. If you wanted to create a race and then write up a history of where that race came from, which you'll see if you look at other species. Alright, so we've got a race. We specifically did not make it into a AI race. And here we go into the game options, where we play with a couple of things. Site settings, some of which are pointless. Others are kind of interesting to throw at. Number of ships, maximum, any player restrictions to that. And those player restrictions only apply to human players. They don't actually apply to computer players. So, you can make it so that it's harder on you, basically, or slightly easier. Gameplay options, most of those are intended for multiplayer, but a couple of them are actually like team mode, where all the AI players just find you, team up on you, and they hate you. They all automatically hate you to the maximum extent of possibility, and they will try to destroy you. If you want war, you got war. Alright, and here's the victory conditions. If you don't select a victory condition is be the last man standing. What we've done here was we've gone and chosen massive expansion, which is basically you go in and you colonize 50% of all planets. So that's kind of useful. means that 100-year section is 1,000 game turns, and nobody can win until at least 1,000 turns have passed. Which is why I quite often do not actually apply the time ones, unless I have a feeling I'm going to get raided pretty easily. Now I go through and show off the save a race feature, and we save off our new race, which is the Altons, the Alton Hegemony. I like to label them based upon which mod they're in, because the races are not compatible between mods, and how many racial points they apply, because I never use technology points. And then we hit begin, and it's going to show some loading screens, and then that'll lead into video 1. Thanks.